Hello, my name is Elizabeth Dodge, and I'm with Stock and Option Solutions, and today we're going to do a quick demo of some functions in Excel. The main function we're trying to teach you about today is AND, which is a logical function, but we're going to break it down. In the example that we're using, we're going to use several different functions, and so we're going to give you a little intro to year, month, day, date, and then also AND. So let's say we're trying to figure out whether a particular sale of ESPP shares has met the holding period for ESPP. Is it a qualifying or a disqualifying disposition? So I have my date over here. I have the enrollment date, I have the purchase date, and then I have the date the shares were sold. And these functions, these columns in here are doing the logic, say is it a qualifying, a QD, or a DD, a disqualifying disposition. But again, first I need to break it down and show you what I'm doing a little bit over here. In order to work with dates, there are a few different functions that are really handy, and I'm using all these functions over here. I'm using year, month, day, and then I put them all back together again with dates. The year, it just pulls the date out of its cell. So here I say year, and I point at A2, and that pulls out 2013. Same thing with month. I pull out month, and I point it at A2, and it just says, oh, the month in there is 6, and I do the same thing with day, the day function. The date function actually puts them all back together again. You do year, and so you put date, and then you put a number, and a number separated by commas. The first number is the year, the second number is the month, and the third number is the day. And the reason I'm showing you this is that I'm going to pull these dates apart and put them back together, but I'm going to add 2 years and 1 day, which is the first date after the enrollment that this person can sell the shares and have a qualifying disposition. So you can see this looks a little complicated up here, but it's basically using those functions we just showed you to pull apart the year and the month and the day. But you can see after year, I've put a +2. So I pulled apart, I said, what's the year? Okay, now add 2 years. So what's my year in A2? Now add 2 of those. Month, I keep the same, and again, I'm pulling it apart and then putting it back together with the date function. And with day, because it has to be in excess of 2 years that they hold it, we're doing 2 years plus 1 day. So this is the first date that they can sell the shares and have it be a qualifying disposition. But as we all know, with ESPP, it has to be 2 years plus 1 day from the date of enrollment or grant, and 1 year and 1 day from the date of purchase or exercise, if you want to use the option terminology. So I do the same thing over here, still pointing at A2, pull it apart with year, month, and day, add 1 to the year, add 1 to the day, and voila, there is the first sale date on which I can sell the shares 1 year plus 1 day from the purchase date. So it's all done for me magically, pulled apart and put back together. Now I'm showing you this column. I'm just doing a test to say, was the enrollment date met? I have the first date here in column E. Is the sale date greater than or equal to E2? Well, it's not. So right there, I know that this is not a qualifying disposition. But both of these have to be true. So I do the same test, but I do it with the first sale date purchase. And you can see that this is actually true. The purchase date holding period has been met. But they both have to be true in order for it to be a qualifying disposition. So that's where I use AND. AND is a wonderful function, and we use it at SOS for a lot of different logical things that we do in spreadsheets, tax accounting for ESPP DDs. We use it for ESPP accounting, in fact, that we do in some spreadsheets. So it just is saying, is this true and is this true? And if both those things are true, this function will return a true. And you don't have to use it with just true, false cells. Here you can see in this one that both F3 and H3 are true, so then my function returns a true. Or works this way too, but obviously if either H or F were true, then I would get a true here. So you can use the AND function or the OR function to do basically the same thing. And then I did a little logic and I put in here, is this a QD or a DD? I said if I2, and if it's true, then we put QD, if not, put a DD. Now, this is all pulled apart, and you can see I'm using, let's see how many columns. I'm using 5 different columns to come up with this. A lot of people tend to put this all together. You can do one big formula. You only need to use one cell. You can put all this together, and you can see here and, when I use and, I'm using it with those same formulas embedded and doing the test for is it greater than C2 right here, all in the formula. And then I put a comma and I do another test. Is it greater than or equal to C2? And then I put the QD or DD right in here. I'm getting exactly the same results. I'm only using one column instead of 5 columns. The downside to doing it all in one cell is that if you have a problem in your formula, that tends to be harder to find. If it's not working for some reason, if you break it out and put it in little chunks, first let me see what the date should be, then let me see if that date was met, then let me see what this date should be, then let me see, and then put them back together. A, it's easier to debug. B, it's easier to understand if you have someone looking at it and tearing apart. It's a lot easier to understand that formula than it is, let's say, this formula that I would have to take out and break into pieces to understand exactly what it's doing. But that was just a quick tutorial to show you how, in one possible use for the AND function, which is just evaluating 2 criteria. It can be either a false and a true, or it can be is this greater than this, or is this less than this, or is this equal to 0. You can use it for many different things, and it's very handy when you're trying to figure out logical steps in Excel with stock plans. And that's our demo for today. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at info@sos-team.com. Thanks very much.